Good morning. Morning. Thank you. Thank you very much. Listen, it's my great pleasure to be here with you guys in beautiful South Beach on this Friday morning. And I learned a long time ago when I was giving presentations that the way to win over an audience is to start with either babies or puppies. So here we go. This is my baby. This is Spencer. He's 11 months old. And actually, he deserves a lot of credit for today's presentation because this picture, which I shot while he was distracting me, I was trying to prepare for this talk, got me thinking about an industry that has some parallels to ours and has some lessons for us to be learned as we talk about building great consumer experiences and why that's so very important to our business. So I was thinking about consumer photography because I take a lot of pictures of this baby, and if you have kids, you've probably taken a lot of pictures of them too. But if you roll backward to, say, 1975-ish, if you were taking pictures, you probably took a picture with a device that looked somewhat like this, right? And not only did you take a picture, but you took lots of pictures. Like you took rolls and rolls of film because we didn't have the benefit of going back and seeing, was that one good? Should I delete it? Do I try again? So on and so forth. You took rolls and rolls of film. And on top of that, you had to take it and shove it into something that looked like this and send it away and wait for like 7 days, 14 days or something like that to see what you would get back in the form of prints. So Gen Xers, boomers in the room might remember what I'm talking about. Millennials, you'll just have to take my word for it. It was very strange and very, very weird, and we're glad it's over. So when we move forward to, 20-some years, 30-some years, 2005, you might have owned a device that looked like this, right? So in 2005, this was a digital camera that you could get mid-range, $500, much more accessible. And obviously all the benefits of digital photography and not waiting and so on and so forth. This was I would say, midpoint of this market growth. The market growth of consumer digital cameras peaked in 2010 and then declined from there. Can anybody guess why? I'm hearing mumbling. Phones, right, digital phones, right? So the market actually grew substantially right up until 2010, then decreased precipitously since then. The iPhone was developed or was invented in 2004. Every other smartphone that came after it also had a camera attached to it. And for most folks, if you had a phone in your hand, right, why carry one device or why carry two devices when you could just have one, and one was good enough for most things that we needed to do. And in fact, even printing those photos became kind of unnecessary because ways to save the photos or share them with family and friends and so on, you just had a lot more choices, more gratuitous pictures of my baby, across social media and your phone and all these other things. Well, I would wager that no company felt this transition harder or stronger than Eastman Kodak. Right? Over a 128-year history, Eastman Kodak built this huge franchise around everything related to photography. And yet their lack of ability to keep up with where the market was going took them from a high stock price of $95 to where it sits today, more in like the $8 or $9 range. And it's a cautionary tale for all of us that despite the strength of whatever market or space that you think you've built, we're all at risk of losing that advantage and losing that position if we don't keep up with consumer behavior and technology. So at Cars.com, we look at this through the lens of insight-led innovation. And we look at it across a few different categories. The first, as I mentioned, is this consumer behavior alignment. We know that consumers spend more time with digital media today than ever before. Depending on the report you're reading, it's anywhere north of 12 hours. And in new car purchasing in particular, consumers spend 14 plus hours across 10 plus different sites and sources of information. We are getting barraged with information. And in no small part because of the rise of mobile as well. Right? With Cars.com, and I'm sure with many of you, we're seeing an increasing move of consumers to mobile media. No surprise, right? Mobile devices are with us all the time. And so therefore that information and those inputs are constantly available to us. In fact, raise your hand right now if you've got your phone in your hand right now. That's a surprising number. I think a bunch of you just put it down. So mobile devices are constantly available, constantly on. And that led us to think about some unique questions, right? What are those mobile use cases that we're looking at? What are mobile consumers doing? Who are these shoppers? What are they trying to do that's unique to the mobile experience? Is there a bandwidth constraint issue that we need to consider? And as we provide features on mobile devices, are we taking full advantage of all the haptic features of a phone or other mobile device that we need to advantage? So this led us to a few things over the last year. First, in 2016, we were the first third-party automotive site in the US to launch a fully responsive and adaptive website experience. So we brought our previously disparate mobile and wired-based experiences to one. We felt that this was really important as we saw the shift of consumer traffic to mobile specifically. And then on the app side, we were able to get even more creative. So it's hard to see here, but if you download the app, you can experience these things for yourself. We launched a variety of what we call on-the-lot features. So we could tell from data that a large number of consumers were using our Cars.com app while they were on the dealership lot. And so we pulled up features that allowed them to look at similar geographically nearby inventory, to look at related local pricing. We also offered a VIN lookup. So sometimes we find that people are on the lot and they're looking at a particular vehicle, but maybe they don't want to talk to a salesperson, or maybe the dealership is closed and there's no salesperson there. So you're able to scan the vehicle number or the VIN number off the dash and pull up all the information about that vehicle. And lastly, we launched a product called Quick Offer. So for every car that's bought, generally speaking, there's a car that's got to be sold or disposed of, right? We launched this product. It's an app-only experience that takes a consumer through a few basic steps to capture some standard photographs of the vehicle, input some basic information, and then send that all one click to participating dealers who can see if they would like to acquire the vehicle. So it's a win-win on both sides, because for consumers, it's an easier way to get rid of the vehicle, and for dealers, it's a cost-efficient way to acquire them. So just a bunch of things that we've done on that mobile front. We also look at insight-led innovation through transparency. So one of the ironic things about the internet is that having a lot more information at our fingertips, at our disposal, actually hasn't made the car buying process necessarily easier. It's just brought more information to folks. So it's no surprise then that folks feel that their top recommendations still come from friends and family, and then secondarily from consumer opinions. There's just too much to sort through. It's too hard to figure out what's the source or credibility of information. Brand trust is at an all-time low, and folks are really looking for a way to sort through all that data. At Cars.com, we think about this through the lens of how do we make decisioning easier? Not just getting more data, but actual decisioning. And we look at that decisioning in 4 categories. So product, what's the car that you want to buy? Price, what's reasonable to pay for it? Place, where am I going to buy it from? And person, who am I going to buy it from? On the product side, I'm sure this is true for many of you too who have auto portals, 95% of Cars.com customers are undecided about what they want to buy. So half the battle is just guiding them through comparison tools, and in our case, reviews of both journalism or auto journalist experts and consumer reviews to guide them down that path of which car is going to be right for them. The interesting thing about this juxtaposition of consumer and expert reviews that we think is really unique is that your consumer reviews are the folks who actually own and drive the car every day, right? They're folks like you and me. We can give an off-the-cuff opinion. Yes, I've always loved this Volvo. No, this Subaru has been a lemon since the day I got it. But on the other side, the expert reviews really have that longer range vantage point about resale value, about durability, about long-term maintenance issues, so on and so forth, that a general consumer doesn't know what to bring to bear. So it's been a really nice juxtaposition on the product, providing guidance on the product side. The right place. We were pioneers in the auto dealer review space several years ago. Most people thought we were crazy. You're giving consumers an open opportunity to criticize a generally not very loved dealership body, and the same dealership body that pays your bills every month. It seemed like kind of a crazy proposition. And in hindsight, we know that reviews for dealerships and frankly all retail business have become the new norm. In fact, I would imagine that most of you here use some kind of review site, right? Yelp, TripAdvisor, something to give you advice just this week. So how many of you used a review site to tell you, like maybe where to go eat last night? Yeah, a bunch of hands go up, right? So it's just part of our norm now. We doubled down on this bet last year when we acquired a company called DealerRater. So that's all they do is work on working with customers and consumers on highlighting those dealerships that provide great experiences. And that's what we've found, right, is generally speaking a migration by those dealerships who really understand that they're creating or that they're catering to a new generation of customers and have to provide a better experience and even want to showcase that to their advantage. On the price side, what we've found is that consumers really, it's not so much that they want to pay the cheapest possible price, it's that nobody wants to get ripped off, right? So we've worked on a lot of pricing tools, particularly around used. New is a little bit more of a commodity, but particularly around used inventory that can give consumers some more context to what is the price of this vehicle versus same one with different trim level, versus same one, same trim level, different mileage, and those kinds of things that, again, help make that trade-off decision for them and help them feel good about where the pricing or what price they should pay for a vehicle. And you see two different implementations here, one wired, one mobile, because we actually found that the different graphics work differently and resonate differently between the two experiences. And then lastly, the right person. This one felt kind of weird to me, but even personally, I have to say, until I got to thinking more about it. Has anybody ever done any home improvements? Remodeled a basement, done a kitchen, added a bathroom, right? So the first thing that happens when you go to do a piece of home improvement is you go and you tell a friend, and if you're really lucky, the friend lives nearby you and they say, no worries, I got a guy, right? We all want to believe in somebody who has a guy. What's the guy? Well, the guy is somebody who's already been tested out, right? He's reliable, he's going to finish the job when he says he will, do the job, have good craftsmanship, charge you a reasonable price. Everybody wants to believe that there's a guy. No different in car buying. What consumers are looking for is that guy who's going to give them a good experience and not rip them off. So through DealerRater, what we've started to offer are employee profiles. So single pages that allow the best salespeople to showcase themselves, a little bit about themselves, show reviews they've gotten from customers that they've worked with. It's a great tool both for consumers who are looking to buy, as well as the dealerships who have recognized increased sales by having this, and the salespeople who do it who get better referral business than all the other ones. And this is currently available. We currently publish this on the DealerRater site, soon to be brought into the cars.com site, and soon to be added to dealership websites. So lastly, we think about insight-led innovation in terms of quality. And this is, for all of us who have the benefit of working in a two-sided marketplace where you have consumers and you have advertising partners, we have to make it work for both sides, right? You can't have a fully functioning business without both sides, and you can't have a fully functioning business without bringing the two sides together. If there's no connection, right? If you have buyers but no sellers, sellers but no buyers, or both but they never talk, marketplaces inherently don't work. So how many of you currently operate in a space where you're talking about value with your dealer or advertiser customers as measured by some kind of traditional lead form like email or phone? A couple of hands, right? We found this is the predominant model for working in automotive with dealership marketing in the US. And unfortunately, and kind of related to some of the things that we talked about before, we have some insights about consumer behavior that actually fly in the face of some of these traditional metrics of value. So we know that consumers prefer anonymity. They're not calling ahead, they're not emailing ahead, particularly if you're on a mobile device. Let's say you're driving around on the weekend with your phone in the car, you're thinking about stopping by this dealership. You don't call them to tell them you're coming, right? On the plus side, when they do show up, consumers are on that lot. They convert the best when they are on that lot and they are ready to buy. Our research shows that 2/3 of consumers who show up on a dealership lot are going to make that transaction within the next 72 hours. So that's good news for all the dealerships who are actually able to get that lot visit, because right now, again, US, Number of lot visits per buying consumers is down to 1.4. They're going to fewer and fewer dealerships than ever. We see a decline in consumer email behavior. Again, folks are sick of getting spammed. They don't want it. They submit fewer and fewer email leads. And then lastly, we're working with dealerships and technology partners alike to talk about the fallacy of the last click, or understanding the consumer journey well beyond the last Google SEM click, well beyond the last piece of direct mail. So one of the things that we've worked on, and one of the innovations that we're particularly proud of, and we actually patented this recently, so we're doubly excited, is this Lot Insights report. So this is a report that we're able to share with dealer customers that show the amount of walk-in, quote-unquote walk-in, right, actual on-the-lot traffic that we've driven to their actual dealership in the last, whatever the time frame is, 7 days, 30 days, so on. So the dark gray box on the screen represents the perimeters of the lot. We've geofenced every single dealership in the US. It's the total perimeter of the lot, so somewhere in there is the building, but the rest of it is the lot where the cars are. The dark purple people represent the people who are on that lot, we can tell, and who visited cars.com. We're using mobile location technology to figure that out. The lighter purple people off to the side obviously are nearby, not on the lot. And it's pretty compelling data, right? Particularly when you consider that, generally speaking, half the population doesn't have location services turned on. So this only represents half of what's actually happening based on what we can actually see. So we can show by month how walk-in traffic is doing, or we can show how much that we're driving. There's no personally identifiable information, but there's also no duplication, right? So we just know implicitly that we drove these. And as we mentioned before, lot visitors are the most likely to close. So that's what we mean when we talk about quality, is certainly, you know, there's a business to be had in just simply driving email leads or driving phone leads. But to us, quality means actually driving dealer sales. We believe that fundamentally that's what our partners want from us, is to move metal and to grow their businesses. And so these are the kinds of measures that we're starting to look at. We've also partnered with a variety of technology companies to talk about quality, again, as I mentioned before, in getting deeper into that consumer journey and beyond the last click. I'm sure all of you here, or most people here, flew on some kind of airline carrier to get here this week. I don't think any of you credits that airline carrier with convincing you to come to the Global Online Classifieds Conference, right? The plane just happened to bring you here. By the same token, that's how we feel about last click, right? The last click is just the representation of the means that you took to get that last mile. But along that other journey, there were a lot of other influence points. And we've been pretty pleased by the outcomes of the research that we've seen. And we continue to work on new tools, and we're excited to see companies like Google and others jumping in to this multi-touch attribution space that we think is really important to understand marketing. So again, 3 places where we look at insight-led innovation: consumer alignment, transparency, and quality. I guess my takeaway message for you is that I think at one point in time, many of us believed that the business was there to be won based on best-in-class consumer experience just generically. And you might have believed that once you'd won it, you were there and you were at the top of the hill. And what we have learned to be true is that the pace of technology and consumer behavior change is just too rapid for that to be true. That the companies that win will be the ones who establish new features and new innovations, not just today, but repeatedly, today, tomorrow, and the next day, and continue on that train of innovation, and continue to use data to their advantage. When I look at the Kodak example and the fall of their stock price, and I think about our own situation as a company relatively recently listed on the New York Stock Exchange, I know that we believe in a better future for that and a brighter future for cars.com.
Yeah, let's start with the first one. How do you know that 95% of your car buyers don't know what to buy?
So we do regular surveying of our consumer customers who come to the site, intercept surveys, and it's pretty consistent.
Okay.
How do you want me to just go through them?
Let's do the first three then.
Okay. How do you incentivize user-generated content? That's a great question. So we used to not incentivize it at all, and we've got incredible volume nonetheless. More recently, what we've placed an emphasis on is trying to get more consumer reviews of vehicles. On the used side, it's tough, not because people aren't willing to do it, but just because when you consider make, model, and year, there's like a huge database of vehicles that you've got to cover. So we've started doing some gift card kind of stuff, and we've grown volume substantially. I don't know that's what we'll do forever, but that's a small tactic that we've done. How long until car ownership declines and ride sharing with self-driving cars takes over? I think that depends who you ask. It's funny. My husband and I were talking the other day, and he's like, yeah, Spencer. So he's like, Spencer may never drive. I'm like, no, that's not true. And I started thinking about it, and it might be true. But here's, I guess, my own thing about car ownership and ride sharing, what I am reminded. So I live in downtown-ish Chicago, so fairly urban environment. We have a lot of the ride-sharing companies and stuff like that. I'm reminded that not all, or certainly not even the bulk of the U.S. population has that scenario. And so for the vast majority of the population, having your own vehicle is both a part of life and a necessity. So I think that has a lot of impact on the pace of this change.
Okay, and perhaps if we just do one last question,
Sure.
which was whether you see a significant difference in behavior in Android versus iOS users, if you look at that.
That's a really good question. I don't actually know. I don't
That's
know that.
fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Elaine.
Thank you.
Thank you.